listening to Tonebender's Sound Design Podcast, presented by Sound Ideas. This is the show where we talk with the sonic artists behind our favorite films, games, and series. If summer has your next project heating up, Sound Ideas is making it easier to build up the library you'll need. During the Sound Ideas mid-year sale, you can save 50% on all proprietary items. From impacts and ambiances to vehicles, animals, machinery, production elements, and specialty effects, you can stock up on these professional sounds before your next deadline hits. Get ahead of the edit with sounds ready for any scene, transition, texture, and any surprise that may come your way. Shop the 50% off mid-year sale now at sound-ideas.com. Hello and welcome to Tonebenders. My name is Tim Muirhead, and today we're going to be talking about the absolute ride of a film, I Love Boosters, by director Boots Riley. We're going to talk to the sound team and how the sound contributes to the film's overall vibe in a really positive and affecting way. I have the supervising sound editor as well as the re-recording mixer with me to talk to us about their approach to this kind of unusual film. But first, I'm really excited to make an announcement about the largest Tonebenders in-person event ever, coming up in Los Angeles on August 9th. I've teamed up with Mike James Gallagher, the man behind the amazing channel In-Depth Sound Design, and together we will be hosting Sound Day LA. This completely free event will be a full afternoon of live records for both Tonebenders and In-Depth episodes, featuring the sound teams behind some of our favorite shows, including Stranger Things, Spider Noir, Widow's Bay, The Pit, Pluribus, Hacks, Shrinking, and DTF St. Louis. There will be food and drinks and lots of time to hang out with your fellow sound pros. All of this is happening at Glen Glen's amazing Stage 1 in Hollywood, California. Plus, the legendary Mark Mangini will be our special guest host for the entire afternoon. Doors open at noon. Claim your seats now through the link in this episode's description in your podcast app. To keep up to date, make sure you follow Tonebenders on Instagram for future announcements about Sound Day LA. This is all completely free to attend thanks to our partners at Remoto and Sound Ideas. So listeners in LA, mark your calendars for August 9th. I know this is going to be a really fun day. Okay, let's get to my interview with Andre Fenley and Kent Sparling from the sound team of I Love Boosters, now out on VOD. Joining me is I Love Boosters supervising sound editor, Andre Fenley. It's great to meet you. Thanks for joining the show today, Andre.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
We also have the sound editor and re-recording mixer, Kent Sparling. Welcome to Tonebenders, Kent.
Thanks a lot. It's great to be here to talk about Boots' film.
So, Kent, you were on the faders for this film with Tom Myers. Who handled what?
Tom handled effects, and that was a great choice because Tom also designed a bunch of the unique sounds in the film. There were many parts of the mix where I was on the faders by myself.
Oh, okay.
But Tom came in and provided really welcome relief. For the most part, I was mixing the dialogue and the music, and then Tom would come in and help us out for part of the mix on the effects.
And have you worked with Tom before?
Oh, yes, for many years.
So you guys have a pretty easy shorthand when working together?
We do. I defer to Tom is what I do. Tom is a really experienced mixer. And so when I'm sitting next to him, I follow his lead. Both of us are really motivated by just really loving Boots and Boots's work and Boots's aesthetic. So for the most part, we're both there sort of looking over our shoulder to see if we got a smile on Boots's face.
Speaking of the aesthetic and the vibe, I kind of mentioned it in the intro. This movie is vibrant. It's frenetic. It's full of energy. Andre, I'm wondering if you can talk to us about how, as the supervising sound editor, you go about finding the sound effects, the sound design to match that energy that we're seeing on screen.
When Boots shared this, first told me the idea, and when we were finishing up Virgo, and he sent me the script. Funny thing is, I started to read it, I don't know, on my iPad or something like that, and then I sort of stopped myself. It pulled me in right away. Immediately knew I wanted to be more tactile with it, so I printed it out and put it in a binder. So as I was reading it, I wanted to take notes. I wanted to write on the script and begin to get my first draft and my first feelings of what sounds I thought needed to support this thing on my first read and see what that felt like. That's sort of where it started. and it just grows and grows. And so the thing about working with Boots is that we always want to go too far. We always want to show him something a little extreme, see how he reacts. He'll love it, he'll hate it, or he'll split the difference. But when you have a project like this, that's what we are tasked with: being creative, being fun, being interesting, and supporting the visuals that we see, and even more important, supporting this narrative that is consistently blowing our mind, right? You know, there's always a new Easter egg that we're finding. And then to have Boots be able to explain it to us just opens it up to other levels, you know, and dynamics for it.
It's interesting because the plot essentially is about workplace labor abuse, which is a heavy topic. But then you have these really cartoon-esque sequences with the building that's all on an angle so people can't walk up to the doorway, and the shoe squeaks that are hilarious. And then the one scene where they are boosting a bunch of clothes and stuffing them into their pants and their shirts, and then they're walking in the parking lot and you get the funny sounds of the clothes squeaking in there. So like it's a odd dichotomy that the overall message of the film is very heavy, but it's done in this very lighthearted, fun way. How cartoony can you go before it's too cartoony? And like, where do you find that line? And maybe Andre, take it first.
Initially, our thought is too cartoony, and or even for Boots, he will give us, you know, marching orders to go cartoony, but then sometimes get it all together with the music and with everything. It's like that's too much, you know, or that's let's dial it back, or let's find something different. And that's the beauty of the creative process. And the fact that where we end up, what you were able to see, there's one beautifully cartoony sound that didn't make it into the cut that's gonna drive me crazy forever. And it's the biggest laugh that I've ever gotten out of Boots. So I thought I'd won. You know, I thought, okay, this is going in the movie. But, you know, we play it, we go through it, we play it, and sometimes he brooms it for his very good reasons. But that's the process. You know, sometimes we just hold our breath with some sounds we put in there and see if it's going to make it to the finish line.
What's amazing about working with Boots is that, well, we know he has a background as a musician. He's got a great ear. And so he hears all these details in a way that other directors might not be as tuned in. But he's got a great instinct about where the line of comedy is that's going to make the audience have a smile on their face and draw them in and make them want to hear some angle on this deeper topic that is absolutely about worker rights and the abuses of capitalism and whatnot. He wants to make an anti-capitalist film, and at the same time, he wants you to enjoy watching it. And he's very, very finely tuned in to when something becomes comedic for its own sake and will take you out of that. And so I think, you know, it's like a director watching an actor give a performance and they know exactly kind of what they're looking for believability. Boots has the same sensibility for sound. He'll be listening to the whole picture together, and then if he hears a sound that he feels is tipping it into simply comedy for comedy's sake, or that the sound is commenting on the picture in some way that feels too intentional, he'll, like Andre said, he'll broom it and say, get that out of there. We got to walk a fine line here. And it's fascinating to work with him and have him guide us that way, because he's got very strong and clear vision of what that line is. That's what makes his film unique.
Well, you mentioned that he was a musician. One of the kind of things that makes I Love Boosters unique is the score by Tune-Yards, which is very different than a regular score. There's an energy to it that is propulsing the film forward in a way that's very different than maybe, you know, an orchestral score or something like that. Kent, maybe you can talk about what it was like to get that music up on the faders and be able to carve dialogue around it and such like that.
It's a great question because, as anyone who's seen the movie knows, it's a very vocal heavy score. Tune-Yards, I mean, it's our pleasure to have also mixed Tune-Yards music in I Love Virgo. You know, both Andre and I are Bay Area people, and so Tune-Yards being a Bay Area band, that's music we know about already before we arrive on the mix stage with this score. But it's very distinctive. It's a vocal-based score which, as any mixer will understand, gets right in the way of the dialogue, like immediately. I've basically got a second dialogue track competing with the dialogue we want to hear. And then you throw on top of that, brass band, marching band style stuff and a bunch of clacky percussion. It's a very difficult score to mix, honestly. To thread the needle between having the music have the impact, punch, and comedy that we want and still let dialogue be intelligible at times, it's very difficult. Boots has a real strong instinct about when you can let a line of dialogue fall into the background because the music is carrying us at that moment. And, that's liberating because some directors might want you to make everything heard all the time, which is very, very difficult. And Boots is like, no, we can sacrifice that at this moment. This is where our attention is. And of course, as you know from the film, there are several moments where the joke is that we can't hear the dialogue for the sake of the music. But yeah, Tune-Yard's music is fantastic, but not easy to mix in a cinematic setting.
Hey everybody, it's Tim. I'm just going to jump in quick to let listeners tuning in from New York City know about a really great screening of the wonderful documentary American Pachuco playing this Friday, July 24th, 6:40 p.m. at the Film Forum. Friend of the podcast, supervising sound editor Peter Albrechtsen will be at the screening to introduce the film and do a Q&A. There will be a free reception afterwards. Go to the notes for this episode in your podcast app for the link on how to register. And if you go, please tell Peter I said hi. I'm wondering about the budget of this film because it has major actors in it. Stop motion animation, it's got all this stuff, but it's also a very left of center film. Like it's not Avengers, you know what I mean? How much time did you guys have to work on this? What was the mix schedule like?
Not enough.
No, Timothy, you're opening up a can of worms. The creative thing is just to figure out how I could bring a crew on and how I could manage that, in the proper way to get what we need. And a testament to Boots and the creative people here. People want to work on a Boots Riley film. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of how and when, because I think we all believe that it's going to be a ride. It's going to be something that is nice to have on our resumes, just saying, hey, we were a part of this. Some of those movies don't hold water the same way. To see what this is sort of culturally doing and how this is moving people and how people are expressing the cinematic experience of going to this movie, that's fun, right? And that's that thing that says, yes, this is what movie making is about. It's nice to just do our part and make it sound great in that process.
It's a great experience. Boots comes in the morning and 9.5 times out of 10, he walks through the door in the morning with a great attitude, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of excitement for whatever we're going to do for the day. And that sets the tone. He's enough of a band leader as well as a director to know that we're all going to vibe off of what he brings in the room in the morning. And he comes in happy, comes in with a joke, he comes in ready to experiment, and that energizes all of us. And so, when you're faced with the challenge of saying, oh, this budget for the scope of the imagination in the script, as Andre was describing, right? It's shameful how little money they give a movie like this when they are willing to write a very large check for a movie that we've all seen many, many, many times before. But that's a conversation for a different venue. I'm sure everybody in the industry listening knows exactly what we're talking about here. You have ideas that are already pre-tested with an audience, and they'll write a fat check for that. You have a story that is original and unique and one of a kind, and the check gets very small. And so that means we have to work really hard to bring that vision to life. So yeah, there's a lot of personal investment, I would say. Sweat equity, it might be the way to describe this, on the part of the crew. The bulk of that falls to Andre and the crew he put together with the editorial, because the way we work these days, you can sneak in some extra time here and there to make something really sing. And on the mix stage, it's harder to do that. We've got the clock running. People know when the lights are on and they know when we are supposed to turn the lights off. So it was a high pressure situation. We mixed this movie in a very short time, very short time. And, we were running through premixes a day a reel and happy to have that much time. And then the final mix, pretty much a day a reel, play it down, and a couple days of fixes. That's very, very short for a film that has so much going on the screen, so much crazy stuff that you've never seen before, crazy levels of dynamics. We already have spoken of a very inventive score. It's a lot to try and fit together in a short amount of time. So, challenging, but ultimately an incredibly fun experience and well worth it.
You're blowing my mind now that you tell me the schedule, how well it turned out. It sounds amazing.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if maybe we can dig into a couple specific scenes and the sound design for them. One we previously mentioned, there's a scene in one of the stores that they are working in at that point. Oh, no, it's before they're starting to work in it. The two employees are trying to talk to their manager about why their paycheck is so small. And the gag is that the music in the store, the clothing store, is so loud that no one can talk, which is on purpose. But anytime in a film there is a thing where it's supposed to be so loud and then the volume changes, it never really works. But it works in this film. I think maybe it's because the music is kind of distorted on its own, so you can really crank it into that. But maybe talk about how that scene came together and if you were worried about it. Because if I saw that in the script, I'd be like, oh my God, how are we going to make this work?
Dre, you want to run with that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the fun of that was understanding that the music would be big. So that lives in the place where it was going to live. What we wanted was that when it's quiet, what is the contrast? As subtly as it is, we have some outside sounds. We have some, we have the balance. And then the music, goes back into the subtle stuff too. And then to help with the transitions, we use the overly large clicks. When you sort of do that, everything serves itself and works for itself, right? And then we put some fun whooshes when the character walks away over to change the channel again. It's one of those things that we have an idea of what we want, but until we execute it on the mix stage, you don't know if it's gonna work or not. To your point of bringing that scene up, it is definitely one of the scenes that I think we are all pleased with how it came out.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that I spent some time in a mall shop, which I won't specifically name, down in Emeryville, where I walked in and the music was exactly like that. And so I know the joke that Boots is trying to play. And in many cases, this is a great example, Timothy, that Boots writes these things in that feel funny. And yet there's a level of commentary behind it.
Definitely.
He's talking about the onslaught of capitalism and the way that this stuff is supposed to hit us in the face and numb us and beat us senseless until we buy something, or until we work and find that 3/4 of our paycheck has been taken. The whole point of it is it's a joke on the surface and it serves a purpose. And that's the special thing about Boots's film, is that you can sit there and look through lots of these visual gags and the craziness and, people in, sorry for spoilers here, but, people who are wearing a suit of skin. All of this is back to talking about things that he wants people to talk about. And he wants them to talk about how crazy it was that those people were wearing a skin suit. And then you begin talking about influencers and, cultural programming and stuff like that. So it's always fun to know that Boots's crazy ideas are serving a sort of social commentary that he wants to make. He's giving us the spoonful of sugar for the medicine that he wants to feed us,
And then what about the feeling of joy when they're talking and you can just leave the music up and don't have to carve out their dialogue at all?
It's very counterintuitive, I have to say. I mean, yeah, I probably, if I'm honest, my impulse was to leave a tiny little bit of room, and Boots came in. He's like, "Nope, I want you to crowd that completely out. I don't care what they're saying. And I'm like, yeah, but the audience probably does. He's like, nope, they don't. Trust me. Obliterate the dialogue. It's always fun to be pushed in a direction where you don't expect to be pushed based on your previous experiences with other filmmakers, right?
For sure. That's an argument that's happened on every film mixing stage in the world about like how hard can we push the music. And it's great that the director is on your side just saying like, no, obliterate it. That's awesome.
Exactly.
I don't know that I've been in that situation. It normally goes the other way. Pull the music down. Right. Pull the music down.
It felt strange. I'll have to tell you that.
Another really fun, maybe subtle thing that I enjoyed in the film, the demon character, I'm not sure, the model/demon character, Lakeith Stanfield's character. There's lots of times when we kind of have very uncomfortable close-ups on him while he's speaking, and a few times where his voice kind of blends into the demon side of him, but it's done in a really subtle, interesting way. Did that get found on the mix stage, or was that planned ahead of time? How did you workshop that?
That was something found on the mix stage for sure. Obviously, from the picture editing side in the cutting room, they're going to put an effect on there that is trying to sell the idea. And then our job when we hear that in the turnover to sound is, okay, how can we capture the essence of what they're trying to do here and improve upon it, put our own distinctive spin on it, or add a layer of whatever we think is going to support this idea. Well, this character is hypnotizing people. Those close-ups you're talking about, he's got this unbelievably sexy look, and everybody who's looking at him is just under his spell, right? He says in his own story, men, women, it doesn't matter. He's just got this vibe. We don't want to be scared of him. This is classic vampire stuff, even though he's not a vampire, right? It's classic vampire stuff. He's got us under a spell. So how do we not make him scary like a demon? We certainly don't want to spoil the reveal of that, but we want to feel like there's some power and authority to him and something otherworldly. So, it's just a process of experimenting and finding something that Boots says, yeah, that feels like what I had in mind. As with literally everything in a film, you're desperately chasing the idea that was on the page in the script, and then how to bring something to it that makes the director go, that's what we need.
Do you remember which plugins you reached for?
No. No is the quick answer. I mean, you can hear there's a multi-tap delay on there that goes back into the surrounds. You've got, a sort of spacious quality to it. It's mixed pretty subtly at the end of the day because we don't want to be over the top with it. And, it's a demon, so you've got a subwoofer on there. Everybody knows that. Come on, Timothy. You don't have a demon without a subwoofer on the dialogue. So I'm sure that was in there as well.
Well, it's interesting because a director like Boots Riley rightfully gets lots of flowers for having a unique voice and telling stories in a unique way. But what often isn't brought up as much is that it's not just him that's making these movies. It's literally hundreds of people. And the sounds that you guys are able to bring to it to amplify his voice is something that makes it work. And I don't know that the average person really thinks about it on that level. They just think, well, Boots is Boots. This is his vision. But it takes people like you to actually bring that to life. And I'm glad that we got to talk to you today to hear about the thoughts behind it, because a film like this is all films, but it's something that takes an army to make. And sometimes when it's such a unique film, it's brought down to a single person. But you guys obviously played such a key role in making this film work. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And on just one quick final note, it's important to just acknowledge the fact that Boots is proud to be representing Oakland. Oakland is a living and breathing entity and what he presents, and we are tasked with that same thing and keeping him in line with the Ryans, the Kublers of the world, and Boots and all the other Oakland filmmakers that have given the Bay Area strong history and legacy of filmmaking. It is fun to be carrying that torch, of acknowledgement and representation.
Thanks for talking to me today. It was fun talking to you, and I hope we get to have you guys on again someday.
Thank you very much.
Anytime, my friend.
Wow, big thanks to Andre and Kent. The unfortunate thing with this interview is Andre's connection was not the strongest, so I had to cut out some really interesting points he made because of technical reasons. I know he was a bit hard to understand sometimes, so thank you for sticking with it, everybody. One more reminder for listeners in LA, claim your seat now for Sound Day LA on August 9th. Tonebenders and in-depth sound design are combining forces for our biggest live event ever. Come hang out with the LA sound community and hear some talks about the amazing sound work done over the last year. It'll be on August 9th at Glen in Hollywood. Full details in the description for this episode in your podcast app. I cannot wait to see you there. Stay tuned for next week's episode with the sound team behind the word-of-mouth hit film Backrooms. It's a good talk, so don't miss it. My name's Tim Muirhead. Thanks for listening to Tonebenders. We'll talk to you next week. If summer has your next project heating up, Sound Ideas is making it easier to build up the library you'll need. During the Sound Ideas mid-year sale, you can save 50% on all proprietary items. From impacts and ambiances to vehicles, animals, machinery, production elements, and specialty effects, you can stock up on these professional sounds before your next deadline hits. Get ahead of the edit with sounds ready for any scene, transition, texture, and any surprise that may come your way. Shop the 50% off mid-year sale now at sound-ideas.com. Tonebenders is produced by me, Timothy Muirhead. Theme music is by Jim Guthrie. You can reach me via email through info@tonebenderspodcast.com. Follow Tonebenders on Instagram to stay on top of new episodes. If you like the show, you can help us out by spreading the word to your friends and colleagues. Or leave us a tip. Just go to tonebenderspodcast.com and click support.